Hi there, I'm Matt Vanicoro with Waves Factory, and I'm really excited to give you an overview of Drum Circle. Drum Circle is a really unique instrument that loads up inside of Contact, and it's a collection of huge, thunderous drum sounds. You can utilize a drum set with 2, 4, or 8 players playing simultaneously for a big, unique thunder of drums that you really don't get anywhere else. So I'll start out with 2 drummers. You can see here, I just click to select. And if I play a beat, you already hear that really cool, wide stereo spread, big sound of 2 drummers. Let's go to 4, and I'll bring some toms in. Well, now it's getting really big, and as I'm sure you can imagine, 8 is just going to be unbelievable. It's not just that you've got 8 drum samples layered on top of each other. We've got 8 different players playing 8 kits. So the sound is just huge. You can see the usable notes down here at the bottom, and we've got a really simple interface. First, I can bring up the mixer. Click right here, and you'll see the 4 different mics I can use. So I've got access to kick mics, snare mics, overhead mics, and room mics. If I took out the kick mic, put it back in, you can hear the effect that it has. The overheads and rooms are, of course, picking up that kick and snare, but the direct access to it allows you to do some really great things. You can adjust the volume, mute, solo it, and pan it to give it even more of a stereo feeling. And I've got a width control down here at the bottom, and with that you can go from a completely inverted stereo phase to a standard fully spread stereo. Now, let's take a listen to those room mics. I'll solo them. And then I'll listen to everything. Now, if I wanted to process them separately inside my DAW or my audio workstation, it's as easy as clicking at the bottom and picking up a different output. So I can actually send the kicks, the snares, the overheads, and the room mics to different outputs inside of my DAW so I can process them individually. Of course, I can do quite a bit of processing individually right within the plugin. So I'll click there to disable the mixer. And if I go over to the effects settings, you can see that I actually can put effects on the individual drums or on the master channel. So if I want to add a little ambience, I'll just go to head convolution. We'll grab a convolution room. Let's grab that dark hall, but of course not quite so wet because I don't want it to be that big. There we go. Nice big sound. But if I decide, man, that snare is getting a little out of control, I can go to the snare mic and set up a different effects chain just for that and maybe put a compressor on. So you'll see the compressor is just on the snare. It's not on the master. And it gets it a little more under control if I were to disable it by clicking there. Now it kind of jumps out at me a little bit more. So the ability to go ahead and enable the effects for individual drum channels as well as the master is very handy. Finally, we've got some settings here. Now with the settings, I've got a couple of different choices. The first, and probably the most important, is that round robin. So if you're looking for a more artificial sound, you might want to use less samples. The round robin decides one of 6 different hits, discrete hits for that particular sample. So if I go to just one, you'll hear that same snare sound over and over again if I hit it again. It's the same exact sample, but when I let it have 6 repetitions, you can hear some different articulations as it rotates through. So that's important. You'll notice the effect it has on the memory. So if you're being very memory conscious, obviously the less samples you're loading up. We've got 42 megabytes there versus 229 megabytes. You can see the effects there. Now the velocity curve will allow you to compensate for your MIDI controller. So you can adjust the minimum velocity if you don't want the minimum going too much, or the maximum. I can pull the maximum back. So if I feel that this is too thunderous, And that's important because it's not just the volume. Remember, drums are hit in a variety of different ways. Hitting a drum really hard is not the same as recording a drum quietly and then boosting the volume. So being able to control the velocity and adjust the curve to favor the higher strike samples or favor the lighter strike samples is very important. Now, you can remap any of the notes. So if you want an instrument in a different place, it's easy enough. I just click here, the articulation, and let's say I want those hand claps. I'll just go to the claps. Now, the claps are currently mapped to G2. Got 8 people clapping there. Now, I can remap it to a different key, or I can use the MIDI learn. I'll just click on this MIDI learn, tap a key, and look at that. You'll see a nice blue playable region note jumped up there on the keyboard. And now that G4 is my mapped key. And then finally, I've got envelope control. So I can do it on an individual note, or I can do it on all of them. So if I decide that I want to trim that snare and make it a little shorter, I can adjust the decay to clip it and not quite get the edge of the sample. There we go. Or give it its full decay. And like most elements on this instrument, I can adjust just the individual one or all of it at once. To turn off that interface for any of these, just click on it and you're back to your main number of drum kit selection screen. And of course, if you like any of these settings, if you make settings that you're really fond of, it's really easy in Kontakt to go to the snapshot window and save a snapshot. If you have some great settings with huge thunderous drums, remapped MIDI notes, don't worry, you can go ahead and save your own customized preset for that. Very simple to do. And that's Drum Circle from Waste Factory.